sportscasting, because my days of being a sportscaster, the possibility of that, are over. But can I meet that goal in another way? Can I take what I hoped my soul would experience in the physical activity called sportscaster and bring it into life in another way? Is there another way that I can describe a home run? It's out of here, it's home run, your life is incredible. Well, you know what? I do that all the time. My whole life is about sharing the experience of life with others. And it's not about describing a baseball game or a football game or some other kind of athletic contest. It's about describing the wonder and the glory and the excitement of life itself, the whole thing, the whole gestalt. And I do that all the time. So, you know, what I was aiming to experience by being a sportscaster, I have experienced in another way. So in column number 3, what I'm inviting you to do is take a look at those goals you had in column number 1, you know, childhood dreams, and see if you can identify the feeling, the larger psychological, emotional, spiritual experience that you hope to enter into, that you hope to manifest as a result of those dreams. Write that down in column number 3, and then in column number 4, I'm going to invite you to write down what way, if I haven't already done it, there might be left to me in my life that I could experience what I put down in column number 3. Got it? And you might even do the same thing for column number 2, adult goals. But I want you to do something else as well with regard to those adult goals. In column number 2, I invited you to list the goals and objectives that you've had since you were a young adult, in your 20s or perhaps 30s. In my case, as I said before, that would be a long time ago. So identify, you've already done that, what those 2 or 3 goals might be, fairly big ones, and then decide, what would it take for me to do those things specifically? Are there still some things that I could do to cause those goals to be met in the specific sense? I can recall my goals as an adult rather easily. Number 1, my goal was to write a book. Number 2, my goal was to be in the movie. I wanted to be in a movie. Number 3, my goal was to be on television. I specifically wanted to be on television. Number 4, I wanted to be a writer for a newspaper. I wanted to write for newspapers. I wanted to be a journalist. I really wanted to do that. Number 5, I wanted to be a radio talk show host. And number 6, I probably shouldn't bring this up, I wanted to make $1 million. It's just a 22-year-old dream. You know, what am I going to tell you? I've done all of those things. I've done every one of those things. And you can too, if you're very clear, number 1, what your unmet goals are, and then make a list of what would it take for me to get from where I am to where I want to be with regard to those specific adult goals. But now let me tell you some adult goals that I haven't met, although I've established those goals a little bit later in my life. And these are the most important goals of all for me. I don't want to tell you what your important goals should be, but I'll tell you what my most important goals have become. I call them the goals of the soul. My goals now, and they have been this way for about 15 years, my goals the past 15 years have had to do with the content of my life experience from a soul's point of view. My goals have been to be kind, I mean really kind, to experience kindness flowing through me, to be compassionate, to be patient, to be understanding, to be gentle with myself and with others, to be loving, to be generous, to be caring. Now, I know this might sound like a lot of fluffy stuff, but I can tell you that this has been true for me for the past 15 years. If I get out of this lifetime without meeting those goals, I'm going to be very disappointed. not happy with myself at all. Because those, we're getting very close to now, those are the reasons that my soul came to this body, to experience aspects of divinity flowing through me as me. So I invite you to take a look at what those goals might be for you as well. Maybe make a list of your soul's goals, whatever they might be, and then see what it would take for you to achieve those in this next lifetime. Here's what's interesting about soul goals. You can meet them almost instantly. Isn't the soul magnificent? It sets goals for you that you can achieve at once. You don't need a certain education or a diploma of this or that kind or a degree or credentials. You don't need particular opportunities, that is physical environments or physical opportunities to open up for you in life. You don't need actually anything to meet the goals of the soul except a willingness and a determination to do so right here, right now. The soul's goals can be met in the instant moment of now because they have to do with what you're being and not with what you're doing. It turns out, after all, that you are a human being and not a human doing. Well, now, the next item on my list of teaching points, learning points, I have a list of these here that I want to make sure I get to. Identifying fears. We've identified incompletions or hurts. We've identified unmet life goals. Now I want to identify fears. This is all, again, about completion. The title of this particular lesson is completion. So now let's take a look at life fears. Again, this has to do with resolving or completing or ending your unfinished business around the stuff that we call fear, or the items in life that have been fearful for us. And I'm going to do again a little 3 or 4 column process. Turn the page. I love these 3 column processes. Turn the page in your notebook. But if you were in a room with me right now, if we were together in a retreat or a workshop, here's what I would ask you to do about fear. I'd ask you to write down 3 fears that you can remember vividly, that really gripped you, that really held you, in their power when you were young. I don't care if they were fears when you were 9 or 16 or 22, but when you were relatively young, either a child or a young adult, yeah? Again, I want you to identify 3 fears that really gripped you when you were either a child or a young adult. Go ahead and write that down real fast right now. We don't have to stop here. Just write down 3 fears, let's see, that gripped me. One of mine might have been, what fears gripped me when I was a child? I didn't have many fears as a child. I mean, not any major ones. What fears gripped me as a young adult? Well, one fear that gripped me as a young adult had to do with relationships. A lot of my fears had to do with relationships. As a young 22, 23-year-old adult, my fear was twofold. She wouldn't like me, the lady of my dreams, or she would like me and we would have a relationship and it wouldn't last. It wouldn't work out. Something would go wrong. The other fear I had as a young adult was that I can't really say that I was afraid that I might not ever get a job that I wanted or have the career that I wanted. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't. So I did. I wound up being in radio and broadcasting and newspaper work and all that. But I think I did fear that somehow or another I wouldn't be recognized for my true talent, for my true gift. That was a fear of mine, no question about it. Now, so I just did that little talking there so you could write down, don't listen to me, look, when I'm talking like this, don't listen to me, you're supposed to be doing the work. So I'm just filling time here, so write down your 3 fears from from childhood or from early adulthood, okay? I hope you've done that. Now, in column number 2, I want you to write down, did those things happen? That's a yes or no. That's a yes or a no. In other words, did the fears you identified in column 1 actually occur? Did those things that you were afraid of actually happen? That's a yes or a no. For me, for instance, that she wouldn't like me has hardly ever occurred. Almost every woman I've ever liked has liked me. That's a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. I've been very lucky that way. If I have admired a lady, she's kind of liked me. I can only think of 2 women in all the years that have not liked me, and I have their names emblazoned in the back of my forehead that I'll never forget, but that's another story. Why did I get into all that? Who cares? It's all so personal. But the truth of the matter is that most of the people that I have enjoyed being around, both, by the way, not just lady friends, but people that I've enjoyed being around have somehow enjoyed being around me. So my early fear, that's the point I'm making, my early fear as a young man that people won't like me, they won't get me, turned out to be, in fact, false. They actually did get me, with all of my faults and with all of my, proclivities and so forth. Most people were okay with that, and they liked me. So in column number 2, I put down no. That did not actually happen. Now, the second big fear I had as a child, as a young man, that I would have no problem getting jobs, but I would have a problem being recognized for my true talents and my true gifts. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Everywhere I went to work, I was recognized. As it happens, for whatever reasons, I was promoted very quickly to management positions in every place of my employment from the time I was 21 years old. Go figure. So, in fact, I never had that happen either. So now I want you to put down in column number 2 whether that happened, what you had in column 1, whether that happened in your life or not. Now in column number 3, if the answer was no to column number 1, if it didn't really happen that way, then in column number 3, I want you to write down, what am I afraid of now? I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that I'm afraid of now in my life. And I'm sorry to tell you I can't do this with you because I'm not afraid of anything right now. That's the truth. Well, I am afraid of one thing. As I said when we were doing the Larry King show a few years ago, Larry asked me, what are you afraid of? And I said, I'm not afraid of anything, Larry. And he raised his eyebrow. He said, really? And I said, well, actually, now that I think about it, I'm afraid that my ego might get the best of me and make me, try to say something that really makes me look good. And Larry kind of laughed at that. He said, yeah, well, thank you for being so honest. So I guess if I had a fear, it would be that my bravado, I tend to be a very big person, that my, panache, my showing up in this space would get the best of me. So I guess